whether it's home, money in the market, or just a 401k, is watching the Federal Reserve these days ahead of what could be yet another interest rate increase in just a few weeks. My next guest says Taylor Swift and Uber are doing more for the market than Janet Yellen ever could. Joining us right now is RealClearMarkets Political and Economy Editor John Tamny. John, good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so why are all those people doing more than Janet Yellen?
Well, because you think about Taylor Swift, remember a year ago, Apple Music decided to offer a new streaming service. They said, we'll give this to our customers for free for 3 months. Well, Taylor Swift said, that's fine, you just won't be getting my music. And that's what we have to remember about the Fed and borrowing. There are no borrowers without savers first, yet the Fed acts as though borrowers don't matter by virtue of trying to decree credit very cheap. Well, in the real economy, it doesn't work that way, and it doesn't work for the Fed either.
Same analysis with Uber.
Yeah, Uber's a perfect innovation that has rendered the Fed's 20,000 economists somewhat clothless, as they've said we can only please our customers by pleasing our drivers first. And so it lets the price of of cars rise to lure drivers on the road when they're needed most. Contrast that with the Fed. When it wants credit to be most plentiful, says we're going to decree the cost of credit cheap. By definition, if you're following just the Fed, that's making it more difficult to get because the price doesn't reflect market realities.
You know, John, I'm very sympathetic to your point that I think we often in the media and on Wall Street, sometimes we want to think that the Fed is omnipotent and omniscient for that matter. And my guess is it's really neither. And we give the Fed far too much credit for its influence over the real economy. And markets often knee-jerk react to Fed statements. For instance, in this month of May, the dollar has rallied incredibly on the idea that the Fed has started to talk very tough, that they're going to hike in either June or July. My question is, are markets paying too much attention to the Fed? Is it really less relevant to the real economy than perhaps we think?
And you can connect the dots with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, they're paying way too much attention to the Fed, and I think you're going to see in time that this is out of habit, but it's going to change. Because let's face it, the Fed's channel is the banking system. Banks represent 15% of total lending in the U.S. economy. Most lending occurs well outside of it. That number is going to increase as technology basically makes it much more sensible to lend away from the banking system. So the Fed's ability to influence the economy is rapidly shrinking simply because the banks are rapidly shrinking as a source of credit in this economy. It's a very positive sign.
But John, you still have bubbles. Jim Grant was talking about them yesterday in terms of the incredibly cheap and easy money available, say, in the subprime auto market, even in commercial real estate. This policy has once again created trouble spots for the economy.
Did he say that was a bubble yesterday?
I don't know if he used the word bubble, but he said there were problems in these areas in terms of how loose the money is.
Well, what's got to be stressed is the Fed's got no credit to give. It can only misallocate it. And that's the exciting thing, because the Fed's ability is, again, a banking channel that is rapidly shrinking before our eyes as a source of credit. Most lending in the commercial space occurs well outside the banking system. And that's true for cars. That's true for all sorts of new credit sources. And so the reality is that the Fed, we're watching it. It's decreeing easy credit over here, but in the real economy, credit's very expensive. Look at Silicon Valley. If you want to start up a business today out there, you are going to give up a big portion of it to a venture capitalist. You'll give up even more of it in terms of stock options to employees. The Fed decrees easy credit here. In the real economy, the price of credit floats to the level that markets
And John, talk about the unintended consequences. We've had a decade now of savers, people who actually put money in a savings account or a CD or buy a fixed income treasury bill that are basically getting paid nothing. So the savers are really funding the economy by not having interest being paid on their debt, on their CDs, on their savings accounts.
Well, think about this. Imagine if Uber ran its show the way that the Fed does its. It would not be in business today because there would never be drivers when you need them the most. The Fed, in trying to decree something cheap, is making it far more difficult because it's telling the savers you don't matter. Imagine if in New York City they decreed apartment rents at $500 a month. Lots of demand, very little supply. The Fed
They actually still do that.
New York City does some of that.
Yeah, exactly.
With rent
to its
control.
discredit. Right?
The Fed at best is making it far more expensive and difficult for businesses to attain credit. We see it right now. Cheap credit, 50% of small businesses last year pointed out that the credit window is essentially closed to them. The Fed has not made it easy to get access to.
By the way, we have durable goods out tomorrow. I don't know if that's going to dictate Fed action, but do you think that the number is going to be priced into the market, or what are you expecting in terms of big ticket items?
Yeah, you know,
it was a terrible number last month.
Right, it was very, very bad. So my guess would be we get at least a bounce back, but I think still, look, when you look at industrial production, when you look at durable goods, manufacturing, anything physical is doing very, very poorly in this economy, unfortunately. And I think a lot of that is because the globe is doing so poorly. The United States is doing okay. We're trudging along. The rest of the world, not doing okay at all. And a lot of those durable goods are very export related. So my guess is it'll be weak. But to your point too, John, I think it's so unfortunate. One of the consequences, I think unintended consequences of Fed policy and so much of our government policy is that it favors the large players and it hurts the small. And that's why for the first time in American history, and this is really sad, we have more firms closing in America than opening. First time ever.
That's an amazing statistic,
yeah.
actually.
Well, it certainly favors the large players, but I think the other mistake is the Fed tries to push credit in the economy when it's not needed. Let's face it, recessions are healthy for the individual. Robert Downey 15 years ago couldn't get a movie made, and that forced him to clean up his drug and drinking habit. Now he's the highest paid actor in the world. The Fed tries to get credit to businesses that shouldn't get it. It's healthy when poorly run businesses are starved of credit. The Fed actually works against natural market.
So you don't believe in the bailout then of 2008, I
think if we love the banks, why would we bail them out? Because it's rendered them wards of the state. They owe their existence to the government.
Yeah.
They'd be much healthier if there were natural failures.
I knew you felt that way. John Tamny, good to see you. Thank you so much. Author of the new book, Who Needs the Fed? What Taylor Swift, Uber, and robots tell us about money, credit, and why we should abolish America's central bank.